Hello, Mike. And how's your
Hi,
month
Phil.
been? How's your month been?
It's been good. You might notice I'm in a different place than I was last time
You
because I've moved into a new place to work because the children were just sending me insane. So,
So you've got your own space and your own studio now. It's always good to see.
absolutely.
I'm in the same space. It's a heat wave here in the
Oh, wow.
Mediterranean, and you're of course in your Aussie winter.
Yes.
Um,
Freezing cold.
so apart from moving office, what have you been doing? Keeping your production students nice and busy.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So it's a full-time job. Just
Yeah.
keeping up with it all. It's got so much going on the forum and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been going well. I've been creating lots of new content as well, though. Lots of free stuff. So yeah, that will be coming out over the next month or so.
Cool. Good to hear. Well,
How about you?
we're really busy filming our new kind of DJ University course, our deep dive. This is everything we know course, which is taking months and months and months. So I'll talk more about that when it's actually ready because
I look forward to
because
that.
it's good fun, but it's taxing stuff.
Yeah.
However, I have had time to look through our massive inbox of people asking questions, people telling us about their pain points with their DJing and their producing and their music. And I've got some really good ones this month that we can have a chat about. So for people who
Brilliant.
who are new to this podcast, basically, Mike is a good friend of mine, a DJing and production veteran, 300 odd productions under his belt, 17 years of touring the world, playing in all the best clubs, and I am the guy behind Digital DJ Tips, which is one of the biggest DJ tech and training websites out there. So together we just chat through pain points that DJs have alerted us to this month from our big inbox. So it's just as if Mike and myself were just sat in the pub with a beer, and these guys helping them out. So that's what we're doing. Hopefully, if you're watching this, some of these pain points will be the same as the ones you've got, and you can get something from the half hour. So with that all cleared up, let's get on with it. So the first one I have, Mike, I'm going to go for the most emotive one. This is from Liam, and the email says, what's your biggest pain point at the moment? That's what people respond to. And he said, I need to get the hell out of my bedroom. He's stuck in his bedroom DJing, and he wants to,
Right.
he wants to get out of there. I feel his pain. DJing is not something you do in your bedroom. You can't learn to play football with a ball in your backyard. You have to play football on a field. How does he get out of his bedroom and get onto the field? What's his first move? What would you tell Liam if he was sat with you now?
Well, there are a couple of different ways of getting out of your bedroom. The one of the best ways to do it is to actually start to make your own music, which might sound like a very, very long-winded way of doing it. But if you start now, you'd be amazed how quickly you will actually end up getting out of your bedroom if you take the right steps. I'm not saying it's an automatic thing. That's one way of doing it. Another, Phil's probably you're probably best placed to answer the other ways of
Well,
doing
let's
it.
let's just talk about your way first, and then I'll move on to
Okay.
my way, if
Yeah.
you like. I think your way's got a lot of worth because this is what happens. People buy some DJ gear, or they just don't even buy gear. They just get the software, which is there's nothing wrong with that. And they get some music, and they realise that they can get past Go quite quickly because technology is fantastic nowadays. And they sit in their bedroom for years. I'm not exaggerating. It can be years. In those years, instead of sitting in your bedroom pressing autoplay or finding more and more music on Beatport or whatever, in those years you could be learning to make music. And learning to make music is a much without putting down DJing is a much more worthwhile skill to get under your belt while you are not leaving your bedroom than just learning to DJ, because DJing used to be difficult. We used to spend those months and years learning to DJ, and we were genuinely learning something. It was hard to wear headphones and to beat match and to work out what's going on your headphone ear and what's going on in your speakers, and it was hard. And so we were, you know, we were frustrated, and then we were happy, and then we felt we'd learned something, and then we felt like it was all going wrong this week, but we were progressing. Something was happening while we were in our bedrooms. And I think the problem now is people get to that stage very quickly, like in the first day, because it's very easy with DJ software to get to the stage where you can make something that sounds okay. But that kind of like, that's it. So you reach in a day where it took us 6 months to get to, and then you need to be out of your bedroom playing music. So if you're not, and you know, there's a good argument for not trying to get your first DJ gig a day after getting your first DJ software. If not, then what are you going to do with your time? How are you going to spend that time? And I think you're quite right. I think getting some software and learning how to make basic music, even if it's just re-editing stuff that you've already got, or is a very worthwhile way of feeling progress and not feeling like Liam feels when he just wants to get the hell out of his bedroom. You know, it's a good way of spending your time while you are background building up the skills. So I think you're very, you know, it's a good point to raise that. That's a good approach. My approach. I mean, sorry, go on.
I mean, in the end, because it's so easy to start to actually make sound as a DJ, because it's so easy to put. You know, you don't need to know very much. That means that lots and lots and lots of people are doing it. So if you can make music, if you can learn to make music, and it is not anywhere near as hard as you think. To make great music is as hard as anything else, but to actually make music isn't as hard as you think. If you can do that, then you are going to be in the top 10%, I don't know, 5% of people who are DJs. So you're already getting yourself above. If you can then learn to make great music, then, you know, who knows, the world is possible. But in order to do that, you actually need to start making music. And apart from anything else, it's actually really good fun and really rewarding thing to do. I mean, imagine playing your own tune to a crowd of people.
It's kind of the DJ's dream, isn't it? To drop your own track and watch it, you know, watch the crowd go wild for it. And imagine starting out as a beginner, and you know, within like a few months having that experience, and it's possible. Yeah. So my way is I've always been one for dropping myself in it and then trying to dig myself out of it again. So my way would be book a gig. My way would be, you know, front it, get out there, you know, do whatever you can to get a booking, even if it's your sister's birthday party or, you know, your mate's barbecue, but just put your shoulders back and get yourself a gig, and then tell everyone you've got that gig, because now you've got something to aim at, and also you've told everyone, so you're going to lose a lot of face if you don't play that gig. So if you book yourself something in a month's time, then believe me, you're gonna work out very quickly what you need to do to get the hell out of your bedroom, because you're going to be, frankly, you're going to be really scared. So being scared is good. Fear is a good motivator. And I think as soon as you book that gig, everything else, by necessity, drops into place, and you think, right, I really do need to get some music that I think is going to work. Right, I really do need to work out how to stop big gaps between tracks. You know, it all becomes very clear.
Yeah, you get very focused. I mean, fear. On the subject of fear, I've actually realised that when I'm scared of doing something, and I don't mean something like jumping off a tall building, obviously. I mean something that isn't going to kill me. When I'm scared of it, I actually treat it as a signpost pointing to the very thing I really want to be doing, the thing I'm scared of. So if you find yourself feeling some kind of inexplicable resistance to doing something, that probably means you really ought to do it.
Yep, I agree completely with you. Like I said at the beginning of the call, we're in the middle of filming a very informative DJ course at the moment, and it's very, very difficult. And every morning, I am scared of doing today's part, because I know how difficult it's. I know how difficult it's going to be. So I spend my time doing everything else I can find until I realise that I'm avoiding it, so I agree with you completely. And actually, this moves us on to another email, which is very similar. From it's a guy called Angel, which is angel in if you would pronounce it in the Anglo-Saxon way. He says I've been a drummer for 20 years, but I've literally just started DJing, and I have been asked to play and agreed to play a 3-hour DJ set in 3 weeks' time. Help. So he's followed my suggestion. He's also actually, for 20 years, followed your suggestion. You know, he makes his own music. He's a musician.
There you
go. But he needs very, very focused help because he's got a gig in 3 weeks. So I will start here by saying, you know, whatever is scaring you the most about this gig, deal with it. Exactly what you just said. So, you know, if you're worried that you haven't got enough music, go and get some music. If you're worried that you can't use your DJ controller or software, use it for 3 hours and write down every mistake that happened and then deal with them. You know, don't be paralyzed. Don't put. I think my biggest advice would be don't put off today anything. Do the thing that's scaring you the most about your set, and do something every day as well, rather than saying, "Oh, it's all right. I'll just do 2 hours intense practice 2 days before the gig." You know. Because the gaps between doing stuff are probably where the pennies are going to drop. Not while you're actually practicing or panicking or sat in front of your computer. It's when you're eating your dinner after a half-hour practice session. You'll think, "Oh yeah, that's why I couldn't do that." You know, so you need to give yourself those gaps between short, often practicing sessions. What would you add to that, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I think your brain processes information and does stuff when you're not doing the stuff that it's processing.
Yep.
But it only does that if you start doing the thing. If you do a session and then you have a break, in that break, your brain will be processing information. If you never have the session, then your brain hasn't been directed.
There's nothing to
way.
process.
There's nothing to process.
No.
So you need to set it going. So start now, and the other thing is that 3 hours might go. You might seem like it's 3 hours. If you think about it, 3 hours is about 36 tunes, say, you know, something like that. If each tune is about 5 minutes long, I'm not sure what kind of style of music it is, so it might be shorter, it might be longer. So if you think about it, that's not that many tunes to play. So that's quite a good way of looking at it, is to actually break it down into, or how much music do I actually need, rather than having this big amorphous mass of music.
Yeah, I agree completely. That's very.
You know, just take. You've got, say, 40 tunes, something like that. Maybe double it, or I don't know. You don't even need to double it. You know, double it to make sure that you've got your bases covered. That's the amount of music you need. Maybe spend a bit of time actually getting that music together. You'll probably find very quickly that you've got way too much, and spend your time just getting rid of the stuff that you don't think is right for it. Be quite brutal with yourself, and then you'll find just that process in itself will really focus your mind, and you'll feel a lot more confident. In that situation, it's going to be a lot about how you actually feel and how confident you are going in there. And when you've got that level of focus, like you've only got, I don't know, 80 tunes or something, you'll know the music. You know, you'll know what there is, so it'll be a lot easier.
And two other things I would add. The first thing is, coming back to this idea of your brain computes stuff and you get better when you're not actually doing it, in the gaps, if you like, is to record your practice sessions. Because if you do that and listen to them, you're suddenly not a DJ, you're suddenly a listener. And you can never judge what you're doing when you're doing it. You need to judge it from the point of view of someone who's experiencing it. And the best way to do that is to record it. So I did say there were 2 extra points there. I can't remember the second one, but that's the main one. I think you know, record your sets. It's something to listen to later on. The second point was, don't be too hung up about mixing. You know, it's 80% about the tunes you play and the order you put them in. You can easily DJ by waiting for one tune to start fading out and starting the next one. And most people won't care. And I'm assuming that this isn't a super club gig that Angel is playing at. I'm assuming he's playing at a party or a bar or an event. And really, people do not care. They don't care about that. No. They care about you playing the right tune at the right time. And they will know. People don't leave clubs saying it was a great night, but I wish he would mix a little bit better. You know, they do when they paid $40, £40 to get in, and they've been there all night. But they certainly don't when they turn up at someone's birthday party or what. You know, it's not a consideration. If it stops you getting out of your bedroom, it's a very, very, very bad thing to be hung up about.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, some of the greatest nights I've had with some of the best DJs I've had they've had the most terrible mixing like nightmares, because it happens to everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. It happens to everyone. Well, maybe not so much now with the digital stuff, but it used to happen to everyone when it was on vinyl. And it really doesn't matter. All that kind of mixing stuff, it's an extra. It's not the core of what DJing is all about. It's all about the music.
And it also comes with practice. Whereas great music is something you need to work on all the time. You know, it's from your heart, the music. But the mixing is just a technical add-on. So I want to move on to a couple of hip hop questions. The first one is from Naylor. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Who says, I am a hip-hop DJ, a teenager, and my parents dislike me playing music. What can I do? I'm trying to remember being a teenager. I'm trying to remember what my parents disliked. I remember my dad, I bought a £30, like $50, record deck from a hi-fi store. And it was one of those belt drive record decks that used to sit on top of a hi-fi system. So you used to have these hi-fi systems of separate bits, the radio and the amplifier and the cassette deck, and then on the top this turntable sat. And I bought just the turntable from a discount store, and I plugged it into our stereo at home, and I started making mixtapes. And I was holding the track, the record, on the beat while I was taking my finger off the pause button. And my dad was very disapproving. He said, "You're going to break that record deck that you bought if you treat it in that way. That's not how it was designed to be used." And that was me being disapproved of as a very early DJ making mixtapes. So actually, I do remember what it's like to have that parental disapproval. I would say to this guy, keep your room tidy. That's going to sound awfully patronising, this stuff, but honestly, keep your room tidy, keep your parents happy in every other way, and keep DJing. Politely disobey them, but be very good in every other area of your life. And prove them wrong. They're going to be proud of you if you achieve something with it. So prove them wrong, and be very polite. That's the best I can.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the situation. I don't know your parents. I don't know you. What I would say is it's probably going to be the case that the reason they disapprove of it is it's a well-meaning thing. They're probably doing it because they love you. They're probably disapproving because they don't think it's the right, for whatever reason. And it's just important, I think, if it is that you remember where they're coming from. And so in that sense, I mean, I disagree with lots of things that my parents, think, but everything they did think was because they thought they were doing the best for me. And this is quite a boring grown-up thing to say, but it's true. So just remember where they're coming from, and as I think that's a great way of dealing with it, Phil, is to, in every other way, be like the model, the model son, and then they really won't have a leg to stand on.
Yeah, if they see marked improvements in other areas of your life, they'll probably sit there and weigh everything up and think, actually, let's not rock the boat. He's being a good boy. And again, I hear my own voice here, and I feel very patronising, but yes, I can't help it, unfortunately. So the other hip hop question is, Dan says, I like this one because this is increasingly the case, and it's about multi-genre mixing. It's about today's DJs our music on our phones tends to be, we buy a bit of this and a bit of that, and when we go to parties, people are playing a bit of this and a bit of that. He says, I'm struggling mixing from house to hip hop. How do I do it? Again, my response is, do it like that. Stop that one, start that one.
Yeah.
As long as you're counting, as long as you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, and you know where the next beat's coming in, make the first beat of the hip hop tune, and don't even try and mix them. You're counting the tune in, and you're dropping it on the downbeat, and people won't mind. That's my if all else fails, that is going to get the ball over the net. That's going to get you from house to hip hop, and then you're into your hip hop 20 minutes or whatever. Don't sweat it. Just do it, and watch the dance floor, and learn from whether you did it well or not. Anything that you can add to that, Mike?
No, not really. I mean, I would say, in terms of mixing from house to hip hop, if you're, I mean, don't in that. In that, don't try and have them both playing at the same time for a long period of time.
Right, so mixing is the no-no here, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you can. So, for instance, you could wait for there to be no beat, a bit where there's no beats, and bring in the house tune, or vice versa, and then quickly mix out of the other one. But don't attempt to do it would be pretty hard to do seamless mixing between the two when there are beats playing. So. That's one way of doing it. The other way is exactly as Phil would say. The way I would do it, if I was unsure, is literally go 1, 2, 3, stop that one on the 4, and start the other one on the 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then you're away.
Yep. And also, if you're DJing where you want to play a bit of rock, a bit of house, but you can dance to rock. Of course you can. You listen to White Stripes or Nirvana or The Strokes. There's a lot of very, very danceable rock music. We all know that. I'm not going to teach people about music here. But if you are playing that kind of multi-genre set where you're jumping around from pop to hip-hop to rock to house, once you've done it for half an hour, people know what you're doing. And they're not going to care that you're changing around the genres. So don't sweat it. It's back to what we were saying earlier. Don't let stuff like that put fear into you. Just get on with it. It's about the music. Music's even bigger than DJing. Music's what it's all about here. So I would say just get on with it, Dan, and enjoy it. Back to that kind of question, actually. The next question is from Gianfranco, who says, again, it's one of those fear questions. He says, I want to play out. I want to play in clubs, but I don't know the best way to practice at home. As regards the equipment, do I buy club gear? Do I buy the same gear I'm likely to find when I go and DJ in a club, or do I just practice with whatever I can afford at home? Do I need to buy club gear? I feel this guy's pain a lot, because it's a question I get asked a lot, and DJs like you and I, Mike, we learn on the equivalent of club gear. We had to, because there weren't computers.
There wasn't anything else.
So we had to. And so it's a question that nowadays both ways are correct, both ways are possible. You can learn the basics of DJing on basically anything, but there is going to be a small learning curve when you turn up at a club and you have to use their gear, especially if you've not learnt to manually beat match, and I think that's the key. I think if you can teach yourself to manually beat match, i.e. to not use the sync button, the rest of it is going to come quite quickly when you turn up to, and therefore you can then use CDJs or anything that's put in front of you, really. If someone says to you at a party, do you want to take over? You're not going to be scared as long as you can manually beat match tunes. And we're talking about advanced DJing here, of course. The other way of doing it is to do what we talked about with Angel and with Dan. Just turn up with great music and play it. Be fearless. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good question, and I would say if you want to be technically very good when you're playing out, yes, it's worth practicing on the same gear that you're likely to find. But it's a learning curve, and once you've learnt, you'll never forget. So again, you need to put yourself in the situation and mess up a few times and realise that it's a DJ set, not flying a plane. No one is going to die if it goes slightly wrong.
Exactly.
What would you say? I mean, it's a difficult one for us, isn't it? Because we did learn on club gear, so.
Yeah, I mean, when I started, it was record decks, and every single club had pretty much exactly the same set of record decks. The Technics 1210s or 1200s, some version of them were in every club, because this was before CDJs, and so we learned on club gear. I mean, now, I think that learning to beat match, as Phil said, would be a really valuable skill for any DJ to have. Apart from anything else, it really trains your ear in ways that not beat matching wouldn't. So it's probably more about your skills than it's about the equipment, and you don't have to do either way. I mean, if you want to, if you think that you want to do that, then that's great. But more importantly is what you're actually doing rather than what you're doing it on. To be honest, and if you can build up your skill level so you are beat matching, and so that you can do these different, maybe even the scratching, like you did that scratching course recently, Phil, then you're going to be in a position where you can play on anything. So I think take your focus away from the equipment and put it on yourself, and you'll do just fine.
One piece of advice, one thing that I've been looking at for this new DJ course, this kind of like getting you ready to play in clubs course, is in fact I've got them here. So let me just go grab one. I'm going to listen. You can tell this is live. I'm just going to put the headset down. And, here, I'm back. So the headset's so you can hear me talking properly, by the way. This room's very echoey, so sorry about the aesthetics of it, viewers. So, one of these. This is a Pioneer CDJ 850. This is very similar to the CDJ 1000, which was the one that we all learnt on when CDJs appeared in clubs. This is also very similar to the CDJ 2000, which is the one you will see in all the clubs nowadays. And this is a third of the price, or half the price. So, you can buy a couple of these. It's going to cost you more than a DJ controller, but you can buy a couple of these and a small mixer, and it will cost you appreciably less than the club's gear, but it will feel exactly the same. So you can practice on club gear while not outlaying all that money. As I say, it's going to be more expensive than a DJ controller, but the good thing about those units is you can also plug them into DJ software. So you can practice. It's like having a DJ controller. You can do all the tricks with software, but you can turn the software off, and then you've got what you're going to find in a club. So you kind of like covered your bases. You've got the best of both worlds. As I said, it's going to cost you more than buying a cheap DJ controller, but it's going to cost you a lot less than buying club gear. So it's just if you have got the money to spend and you are serious, the CDJ 850s are a good compromise between the two.
There you go. It's a tip from the top.
Well, tip from somewhere, little bit higher, hopefully. So we've gone into quite a lot of depth with those questions, Mike, as we tend to do.
There was actually one thing that struck me that we hadn't said to, was it Angel?
The 3 hours 3 hours set in 3 weeks time guy, yeah.
I said, I think the biggest bit of advice I would be is that when you get there, enjoy it. That's it. Just enjoy it. Whatever happens, happens, and it's going to be an amazing experience. So
yeah, I agree. You have
enjoy it.
You have to enjoy it, and you have to see it for what it is. It's people want you to do well. They're there. They're happy. They're partying. They're in a leisure situation. They're not there to judge or to be critical. And you're the dude. You're the guy. You're the one who, if you're happy, they're happy. But flip that round. If you're looking really nervous and you're looking like you shouldn't be there, that is infectious in the wrong way. So you have to, you kind of like have to front it a little bit as well. Your first half hour, you're going to be nervous. So just smile.
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. So one final question. I just don't want to leave it out because it struck me as one that was worth covering. I don't think we've talked about it before, and it is related. A guy, I'm afraid I didn't note his name, but he said, I'm struggling with using effects and samples, all the extra buttons and stuff on your DJ controller. And I get the sense that he thinks he needs to know how to do this. And I think anyone who's listened intently for the last half hour will know our answer to this. Don't worry. We never had those buttons. Most DJs aren't using them. I read a book, which I can't actually see, but it was on my desk. I read a book by Yakov, who is the guy behind Mixed in Key software. He's written a book called Beyond Beat Matching, and it's a really nice little book. You can actually read it for free on the Mixed in Key website. So there's a really good tip there, guys. Go and look on the Mixed in Key website. It's a whole book about. He interviews lots of DJs and he talks about everything once you've learned to beat match. But he says, if you use your effects and your sampler 1 track in 20, that's enough. So, do you really need to worry about it? I would say you don't.
I can honestly say that I virtually never, I never used any extra samples ever. The closest I got to that was when I used to sort of mix acapellas over the top and stuff like that. But I never used any samples. And effects, I just found it really annoying after. Like sometimes you'd go to play at a gig and there'd be the occasional DJ before you who was just like always putting the flange on, and it was just like, give it a rest. So they are good, but very, very sparingly. So what I would say is don't worry about it at all. In fact, really focus on the music, because the trouble is with things like that, they're a little bit like when you are. if you're unsure or you're feeling a little bit nervous, sometimes you kind of rely on them, and that's when you start to use them too much. So, turn them off maybe.
I agree completely, and I think also if you hear an effect being used by the producer of a track, and you think that sounds really cool, and you know how to use your DJ softwares or controllers or mixers effect to do the same thing, then it might be worth doing it. So for instance, if there's a piano line and it's got a heavy filter on it and they slowly bring it up, and you know how to use your filter knob to do the same thing, and your next track has a piano line in, then why not? Why not bring it in that way? But you're complementing the music rather than just adding something to it for the sake of it, I guess. I mean, we could go very deeply into what mixing's all about here, because arguably that's what mixing, one of the objectives of mixing is to complement the music without just doing something silly for the hell of it. But every now and then you will hear an effect used in a track and think, yeah, I quite like that. But this is the kind of stuff you'll practice at home. You certainly won't just suddenly decide to do it in the club unless you're very experienced. You'll practice this at home, and you maybe have a little mix that you've practiced that uses an effect in a complementary way. And in a subtle way, and then you'll just replicate it in the club. But that's different to just throwing them on because you feel you have to.
Yeah, you don't have to. I mean, some of the greatest, in fact, probably most of the greatest DJs who ever lived have never used an effect or a sample in their life.
Yeah, it's something that, it's like word processors. I'm old enough to remember when word processors appeared, and you are as well, Mike. Microsoft Word had all these fonts in it, and for about 1 month, everyone's adverts and everyone's stuff had 20 fonts on the page, and then we all realised it was very, very silly and went back to using one. Exactly. And it's the same with DJ controllers. They've got so much stuff on them now that they really doesn't mean you have to use it. You look in Serato, I think it's got 8 effects. You look in Traktor, it's got like 40. Why doesn't Serato have 40? That should be a sign to you that they're good, but they're not essential by any means. And most DJs will never even use those 8, never mind those 40.
And any creative person, anyone who creates anything or performs anything will tell you that less is more, and less is always more, and that certainly goes for things like using FX and samples. So the ultimate form of less is not at all. So. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mike, for your time as always today. I hope we've
thank you.
I hope we've enlightened a few people and helped a few people. Really, what we want you to do is make music and get out there and play music. We don't want you to sit at home thinking what if, or worrying about it, or feeling like you're not good enough. If we can just get you to do something rather than nothing, then we'll have done our job.
Absolutely.
So if you want to find out more about Mike's production training, there is a link below this video. And also, if you would like to get our free DJ email course, if you're not already on it, again, there's a link below this video so that you can sign up for that stuff. It's all free, so there's no reason not to. Thanks for your time, people out there. We hope that we've helped you, and we'll see you next week next month for another webcast.
Next month.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Good stuff. Thanks, Mike. Bye.